right. We've now been joined by our race-winning driver and crew chief, driver of the number 20 Rheem Toyota, Christopher Bell, and his crew chief, Jason Ratcliff. And so we will take questions for Christopher or Jason. If you have one, please raise your hand, state your name and affiliation. We'll start with Jerry and go to Jacob.
Yes, it was the Lupe.
It was the Lupe? Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net. First off, good to clear that up. But also, you told us last year at Daytona that you really wanted bragging rights. How important is this for bragging rights to get the first win in Super over Kyle?
Oh man, that's really, really big, and it all just boils down to the fact that you don't get to be a first-time winner very often. So there's a very good possibility Kyle's gonna win one of the next three, and I beat him to victory lane. So I'm all smiles right now.
All right. Jacob, I believe you had a question.
Jacob Zielman, Speed Sport Magazine. Were there any nerves or concerns for you today? I mean, that car looked about like a dream to drive. I mean, were there any issue, aside from maybe the final restart that they might jump you, were there any real concerns for you driving this thing all day?
I mean, all day long I knew that my weakness was late in the runs. I felt really, really strong from green flag to basically the last 10 laps. I just start struggling really bad. So when the two cars started gaining on me a little bit, I felt like I could make time if I moved up to the top late in the run. So I was just about to move up to the top and see if I couldn't pick up a little bit of speed to hold off the two car. But yeah, late in the runs, the competition was really good. I mean, the 00 and the 2, they both were really strong late in the runs. So that had me a little bit nervous there. And then obviously on a late race restart, you're kind of a sitting duck, right? And so I tried to just accelerate as early as I could and make sure that nobody got a run on me. It probably didn't matter to me either way. I knew that I was going to have my hands full if the yellow didn't come out, and I was going to have my hands full on the restart if the yellow did come out. So it probably didn't matter to me either way.
All right, go ahead.
Hey, Christopher, Doug Turnbull from PRN and WSB Radio. This may be similar to Jacob's question, but we were kind of deliberating on our broadcast. How much was Tyler Reddick catching you, and how much had you saved for the end of your run there? Because I would think it's even, and Jason, you could maybe elaborate too, it's probably, I would think, hard to adjust if you don't know how much your driver is saving. That certainly sounded like that on some radios I was listening to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how much more I had whenever Tyler was catching me there. He was about to give me a run for my money, that's for sure. So, yeah, to answer your question, I really was not in save mode there those last 10 whenever he was catching me.
Yeah, I could tell by, looking at the lap times that, we had some long green runs in the last 7 to 8 laps of the run. The 2, and then early in the race, even the 00 would make a little ground on us. I felt like there at the end, though, if Christopher would have moved up in 1 and 2, he'd been making, a couple tenths up all day. So I felt good about it. I mean, he was closing in on us, but I wasn't overly concerned. I felt like with 5 or 6 to go, he would have been able to do what he needed to finish it.
All right, Dustin, you have a question right here?
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Christopher, on the last restart, obviously you've got the inside line, you've got the preferred position. The outside line, that's been a tough line for anybody to get going. Even with having a teammate or, the quality of that car beside you, do you even worry about anything on the outside lane? Because it just seems like there's such a big difference between those two lanes, or at least there was in this race.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I was more worried about the 7 car behind me. Being in the second row is a pretty big advantage because the leader sets the pace. The guy in second has to stay with the leader, but then the second row can always have a gap there and roll momentum on you. So that was my biggest thing, was just trying to keep my gap to the 7 tightened up and then not let him accelerate before I did, and let him get momentum on me. So I guess to your point, I was not really worried about the guys beside me. I was more so worried about the 7 behind me.
Whereas other tracks, you might be worried about it.
Yeah, absolutely. If we're at Texas or anywhere else, the guy beside you is he's probably gonna be your toughest competition.
All right, we're going to go upstairs, and then we'll come back downstairs. Go ahead, press box.
Lee Spencer, I have a question for both of you. First of all, for Jason, can you describe what it was like going through the car change from the Super? Was there anything more than changing the bodies?
Not really. I mean, the guys did a good job this winter converting everything over. Probably late December, early January, we had one in the tunnel, and it was just as good as the Camry. So we had no concerns coming to the track with it. I feel like now, we get a few races under our belt with it. We'll get a better feel for it and hopefully just continue to grow with it. It's first time out. Obviously, it looked pretty strong. But for the most part, it was just, some man hours back at the shop making the change. The car looks awesome and it's fast. So we're looking forward to a good season with it.
Thank you. And for Christopher, I was kind of curious how the deal came together with Kevin Swindell and if you have anything else planned with him for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it actually worked out really good. Kevin was looking for a driver for this year because Spencer had come up with other opportunities. So he really wasn't wanting to do a full schedule, and I think he had some sponsorship money available to him if he could run me in the car. So and it worked out perfect for me because obviously I'm not looking for a full-time ride. So we kind of got together, and Kevin said that he's going to race whenever I'm available to race, and we're off to a great start. Obviously, sitting second in outlaw points right now is pretty freaking cool. So really excited about that. And our next race will probably be either the April off weekend or one of the off weekends in May.
All right, we'll come back down front. Go ahead.
Mike Massey with FrontStretch.com. Cole Custer said that he caught you there at the end, but the dirty air messed him up, so he couldn't do anything with you. But when you were back in the traffic, the dirty air didn't seem to trouble you at all. What was the difference there?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's the surface here or what, but really from my truck career to my Xfinity career, dirty air at this racetrack has been way, not near as bad as what it is at other racetracks. I don't know if it's the tire and track combination or what. So I've never really had a big problem with dirty air here, but definitely on fresh tires I could see where he was, or why he would be struggling behind me.
And then are you disappointed that you had this good of a day, this good of a car, and you didn't have any cup drivers to really school?
I mean, I don't know. I told Jason a little bit, or me and him were talking a little bit yesterday, and I felt like I wanted to, I wanted to be dominant, right? I obviously winning's great, but I wanted to, be really good, and we were really good until right there at the end of the race. So if there weren't any cup drivers there, we might have got beaten there at the end. So we'll just I'll have to get better as a race car driver and just try and pick up on my weaknesses. That's for sure.
All right, I believe I had a couple more questions. Where's my microphones? Oh, okay, if we can go to the middle, please. We'll go. Jacob, can you hand it to behind you there? Thank you.
Peter Strada, TSJ Sports. Christopher, where was the 2 stronger than you before that last caution?
I don't really know where on the well, actually I do know where on the racetrack, or at least I can tell you where I was struggling. My car was really good from lap 0 to 30 or 35 or whatever that number was, but the last 5-10 I started struggling really bad, just getting my car to stay connected to the yellow line. The rear end would start moving quite a bit. I'd start slipping my tires quite a bit, my rear tires. So I'm assuming that's where he would make up time on me. I would just have to slow down so much to stay connected to the yellow line. So the 2 and the 00 were really, really good on the long run.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so I'm Jenna Sanders. I'm here with a Prowler from Stars Mill, and so I have a question for both of you guys. The weather in Las Vegas is more predictable than it was here this weekend. So what have you guys learned from this weekend that you can apply next weekend?
I feel like that's probably more of a Jason question than myself. I will say the weather obviously makes you feel really good inside the race car. These cars get really hot whenever the sun's out. So it felt nice today to, have cool temperatures. So that was really nice. Vegas was actually really, really cold last year, if I remember right. But I'll let Jason elaborate on that.
What was the question?
Temperature difference at Vegas, or did you learn anything here?
Yeah, I think the track surface is so much different here than what we have at Vegas. Anytime it's cool like this, usually the track's pretty gripped up. This time of year at Vegas, I don't expect it to get too hot. But today, I wasn't expecting this at all, to be mid-50s, low 60s, and cloudy like this. When we started practice yesterday, the first practice, the sun was out, and I felt like there was a lot less grip in the track. Christopher's complaints with the car were a lot different than what we had in the second practice when it cooled off. Thankfully, it cooled off in the second practice yesterday and gave us, a snapshot of what we would have today. But I really wasn't expecting this. It turned out to be much cooler than I thought.
All right, we'll go Jacob, and then we'll end with Dustin. Go ahead, Jacob.
Jacob Stillman, Speed Sport Magazine. Christopher, to follow up on Lee's question, you and Kevin are kind of, I'd say, both racers when it comes to the dirt side of things. Is it fun for you to link up with somebody like him, who it seems like you guys kind of have similar mindsets when it comes to the sprint car stuff?
Yeah, it's been a blast, and obviously running well has really made us feel a lot better relationship-wise. But I'll be honest, if you would have told me a couple years ago I was going to be driving for Kevin Swindell, I would have told you you're crazy. We not that we didn't ever get along as people, but we had a couple run-ins there on the racetrack at the Chili Bowl. So I remember, he was one of my fiercest competitors whenever he was racing, and I think that makes him a really great crew chief and car owner, because whenever I go over there and I tell him, hey, I'm struggling with this, he knows what I'm talking about. So just being able to drive for such a successful race car driver turned crew chief, I think is a big advantage.
All right, we'll take our final question from Dustin, right here.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Jason, we saw the success and the domination by Christopher last year. Obviously there was talk last year about, should he be up in Cup? Is he ready? A lot of people felt like he was ready to be in Cup. So now you come back to this season and you see a dominating performance. When you've got somebody like Christopher, what do you have to do to keep that progression going? How does that athlete, because obviously there was so much that was said about Christopher and there's so much success. Where's the next step of improvements, or if Christopher, if you want to address that even, where do you go from here? Because now it looks like it's the same old thing. How do you prevent from being stale when there's still 30-some races to go for somebody, a talent like him?
Well, we didn't win them all last year, so there's a lot more races to win. There's a few that, and everyone can say this in the series. There's a few you feel like that got away from you. So we can always grow. Even I've been doing this for a long time, and I think every week I come out and learn something new, and Christopher's the same way. So this is a great, an awesome series for coming out here, running laps, learning how to race, all the ins and outs of whether it's, pit road entry on green flag stops to, managing your tires on a long run in Atlanta. So all those things, there's just value and experience. So I think this year, look at the things that we didn't do maybe so well last year and just keep growing on that. And he challenges me, and I challenge him every week. We always look at, Vegas. We'll go to Vegas next week, and, we didn't win there last year. We had a good car, but we got to be better. And I think that our goal is always, and our expectations are always to do better than we did yesterday. Is he ready to, move into that series? Absolutely. Is there still a lot to be learned in this one? Absolutely. So this is time, from my standpoint, I think this is time well spent. I think a lot of times drivers, there's a lot more that they could learn in this series, and they move too fast. Obviously, when the opportunity presents itself, you're going to step into that role and be ready for it. But until that happens, you just keep growing so that when it does present itself, he'll definitely, be ready for it.
And from my standpoint, I remember having this conversation with Jason last year on an airplane home from, one of the West Coast races. You look at the guys, the Cup guys that come back and run in this series, and, Larson, Kyle Busch, Keselowski, Logano, Harvick, all those guys, whenever they come back here, they are always the guys to beat. So, and their car's not perfect every single time that they race. So that's my goal, to, always be the guy. Like, man, if I want to win at Darlington, I got to go through the 20 car. If I want to win at Bristol, I got to go through the 20 cars. So that's my goal this year, is just to work on the consistency of being the guy to beat every week in and week out, just like the Cup guys are whenever they come down and race. Today was a great day in that sense until the last 10 laps. I got to work on the last 10 laps, and that was a little bit disappointing to be so dominant and then have almost get beat there at the end. But we didn't get beat, so I'm all smiles right now.
All right. Well, congratulations, Christopher and Jason. We wish you guys the best of luck next week in Vegas.
Thanks.